60, and it was like, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and then a student raises their hand, and they're like, so what decade was that? And the professor responds and says, oh, that was the first 3 months of 2020. So I get you. It's hard to keep track of everything that we've been doing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys so that we can get started today and get you guys out just probably a little bit early. Why isn't this working the way I want it to? Hold on. Zoom is having problems. It is having issues. 1 second. Are you guys, no, you guys can't see me, my screen, right? You can still just see me. It's, okay, there it is. It's being really, really, really slow right now. I tried to mute all of you guys, and then now it's mad at me. Hold on. This might be a problem. I might have to reload my own app. I don't know if I leave, though, what happens. Okay. Share. 1 second. Sorry. Why isn't it working? Okay, now you guys can see the screen, right? Okay. Maybe? Yes. Okay.
It's loading, but...
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Colin. I don't know what was going on. Zoom's having issues. All right. Anyways, so in terms of today, I don't really have anything like new, unless you guys do. I'm sorry. There's been no drama really that's happened yet. No like incredibly amazing things. There's a lot of stuff happening in my home state of Idaho that's been going crazy, but nothing here too badly. I don't know if you guys saw that up in Ogden, they are planning to reopen Ogden May 1st. So I guess if you guys want to start going and doing stuff, supposedly Ogden's going to start opening thing on May 1st. I don't know. I wouldn't. But, oh, by the way, College Board lectures, they have been inviting celebrities to the College Board lectures. So they have a celebrity today. And there's been a lot of famous people that have been on the lectures. Nothing about A-Push, but I think it'd be really cool if we had a celebrity. So if you know a celebrity, maybe reach out to them and say they should add it. The person who's today, so today in AP Gov is somebody, I didn't read a lot into it, but it's a really, really famous person that used to be a government official, and they're like one of the top government people, and they've written like a ton of books and stuff like that. I heard a bunch of celebrities have been going into like AP Art and AP English and stuff like that. So consider, oh, you got a pick. Cool. And yes, I don't know what they're going to do with Ogden. It's going to be really, really weird. But Salt Lake County is different because we have the most amount of people. Okay. Or did what change? It's today. It changed. So if you're talking about the reopening, it changed to May 1st. So May 1st is up in Ogden. I don't know about Georgia. I'm not sure. Okay. Anyways, so let's talk about period 5, not period 7, because apparently I'm obsessed with period 7 that I said that. We don't have school for the rest of the year. We have online school, but we do not have in-person school for the rest of the school year. That's correct. And they are making, I'm not saying that this is in Utah. This is mostly in other locations. But they are in some locations making contingency plans for the fall. I don't think that'll be here in Utah, but that's just me. I'm sure they'll have some sort of a plan together in case we don't go back, but I think we go back in August. We'll see. Okay. So let's talk about period 5. So these are the 3 review sessions that they are doing. Again, I want to point out one of these is about migration. That is our 3rd migration prompt that we've seen in 3 periods. So I really think that a migration or immigration prompt is very, very common. Immigration is a little bit odd because we do immigration in period 5, but a lot of places do immigration in period 4. So immigration is, we're going to talk about it today, but just know that it might not be one here, but I do believe that it is an essay prompt in period 4. It doesn't really matter either way. It depends on your teacher of whether they put it in. Our textbook puts it in period 5, which is why we teach it there. But a lot of ones do period 4. So again, this expansion one, I just want to point out, we're not going to talk about it But if you notice the dates of 1844 to 1877, I don't know if you guys want to write this down so you would know what this essay prompt is referring to. The start of this essay prompt is really causes of the Mexican-American War. Mexican-American War is in 1845 to 46. So it starts Mexican-American War, popular sovereignty, westward expansion, manifest destiny, Wilmot Proviso, Gadsden Purchase. That's also Gold Rush, Homestead Act, could also include Transcontinental Railroad. And then the last thing you would talk about is overall Indian conflict, especially Buffalo and things like that. But Wounded Knee, those ones are actually after 1877. It's kind of a weird date of 1877. I would rather it go to 1900 just for my own personal preference. But so it wouldn't be Wounded Knee Massacre and things like that, or General Custer. It would just be general Native American conflict due to westward expansion. Wilmot Proviso is actually in today's topic, so I will get there as soon as we start. Where's a good place to find a list of topics to put in chronological order on those review assignments? Are you talking about my review assignments or just in general? I would always refer to your notes. So I would go through your notes and look as well. But again, in theory, the review assignment, if you're doing this one, you would be watching that essay. So if it were me, I would just watch that review session and go off of what they say to do.
So are we putting the alphabetized periods into our binders?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So once you all submit it next Saturday, I'll have a PDF ready to go for Monday. And then Monday's assignment will be to put your binder together or whatever you want to do for your open note. So I'll have that all ready to go for you. Okay. Next one is describe the effects of Lincoln's election. I think that is a really weird review topic. Because technically, and I will help you put it together, Sarah, don't worry. We'll probably have a little thing like this where we'll sit there and put our binders together and watch each other put our binders together. It'll be awesome. So describe the effects of Lincoln's election. Again, it's a really weird topic, but my assumption would be Civil War is the major effect, and then I guess they're probably going to include Reconstruction, and then explain the effects of government policy during Reconstruction on society. This was an LEQ 2 years ago. It was a DBQ on the international exam 3 years ago. I do personally think, here's my concern, is remember that New South one from period 6 that they're talking about? That could be one of these Reconstruction things. So I would think that there's a possibility that Reconstruction is the HC, and the essay topic is the New South or something along the lines of that. But this Reconstruction tends to be one that a lot of students miss. So I would make sure to extra look at that one simply because a lot of people don't understand it. It's not that it's a very huge topic. It's just it's one that's not as easy to understand comparative to others. Okay? All right. So here's what we are going to do. And I downloaded this online just because we've been having issues with this thing. So yeah, it looks like I'll do the PDF. All right, so overall, let's talk about your sorting. So here's the answers to your sorting activity that you guys had. Hopefully a little bit easier compared to the other ones. And then these are in chronological order. So immigration, again, a lot of teachers are saying they think it's going to be an immigration this year. So I would make sure to know the causes and the effects, the changes in the continuities during the first wave of immigration as well as the second. And I would make sure to know the differences and similarities between the first wave and the second group and the second wave. The most common difference that you'll want to talk about is who came. And then a similarity could be, for example, both time periods have the Chinese that are going to end up coming. Think about similarities and differences in push-pull factors, why they came, what caused them to be pushed away from their homes, as well as the impact of how did people perceive them. The most important one, yes, that's supposed to be women. Sorry, that is supposed to be women. Thank you. So anyways, I would make sure to know first wave of immigration because, again, a lot of people are saying this could be it. I don't think it's going to be a Civil War essay. Again, that review topic was weird. So I don't think it's going to be that, but that's just me. This one should be women's rights. If you're going to get that, it's more than likely going to be a reform essay on just general reforms of the mid-1800s. Remember that antebellum period, the period before the Civil War is called antebellum. So it'd be like antebellum reforms and things like that, with the most important is the Declaration of Sentiments and the Seneca Falls Convention. Overall causes of the Civil War, always know the causes of the Civil War. It's always one that's going to be very, very helpful. Somebody asked about what was the Wilmot Proviso. The Wilmot Proviso was when they had all that land for the Mexican-American War with the Mexican Cession. The Wilmot Proviso was basically a free soil movement that was going to 100% ban all slavery in any new acquired territories. It failed. And really what the Wilmot Proviso is about is who should be slave and who should be free. That's the most important thing to know about. And in particular, should you be allowed to ban it in these new territories? Again, one of the biggest categories is going to always be causes of the Civil War, which is why I think it's very odd that the review session is about effects of Lincoln, because that's a really, really, really small one at the very, very, very end here. But again, you have obviously the election of 1860, and then you have secession in Fort Sumter. So I don't really know what they would ask in that, but we will see once we watch that review video, which again, you'll have access to everybody's reviews of each of the different review sessions to kind of get an idea of what they want you to write. And then Civil War as a whole, again, Civil War is the least likely of all of these topics to be about, simply because they don't focus on strategy or events. It's more about causes and effects of the Civil War. Reconstruction is easily the most hard one that I would focus on for this because a lot of people don't understand Reconstruction or it's confusing. So with Reconstruction, you have over here the different phases, and almost everybody gets the phases wrong, so I'm going to over that really quickly. So phase 1, presidential reconstruction, this is basically immediately after Lincoln dies. So Andrew Johnson's going to become the president, and basically he kind of does what Lincoln wants until the next election comes. This phase is not going to be as commonly talked about. The only real important thing that happens here is he kind of patches up a little bit of what Lincoln did. And then what really big is going to happen, though, is going into this Congressional and radical Reconstruction era. This phase 2 is extremely important, and that's because that is when it gets the most intense. This is when all the radical things comes, all the radical changes. So, for example, black codes start, so discrimination, legal discrimination against African Americans. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 fails during this time. So this is when Johnson is the president. Johnson does not support Congressional Reconstruction. Grant comes in, and he is going to be much more supportive. Several things get passed, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Don't forget to know the difference between these, because if you get them wrong, they will, is the period 5 sections review. It is not, because I had a meeting with a parent that went, it was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it went an hour. So I wasn't able to get it up. My apologies. So 13th, 14th, and I'll get it up as soon as I'm done with this. It's just my meeting went super long. So 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. 13th bans slavery. 14th grants citizenship. A really great way to remember the 14th, this is the one that gets sued all the time. Remember, it has the thing called the Due Process Clause, and the Due Process, or the, Equal Protection Clause. And the Equal Protection Clause is the idea that everybody is equal underneath the Constitution. And so the 14th Amendment oftentimes gets brought up, for example, with LGBTQ stuff, gay marriage laws, different things like that, is all about what is this idea of equal protection. So that's an easy way to remember that is citizenship. Everybody's equal under the law. And it's also the most controversial out of all the amendments in terms of the fact that it's not controversial of itself, but it's the fact that it's constantly brought up in lawsuits. Almost all civil rights lawsuits or lawsuits that go to the Supreme Court have the 14th Amendment specifically referenced. And then 15th Amendment is the right to vote. So those are the three. Sharecropping, remember we talked about that. Bayonet Rule. Bayonet Rule is going to be, remember, where they send the U.S. military down to the South and basically have it under military law. It's basically martial law in the South. Scalawags and carpetbaggers are both going to be people from the North that take advantage of the South. Remember, carpetbaggers were the people that went down to the South with their giant carpet bags, used all the people in the South, got all their money in their carpet bags, and ran away before anybody could stop them. Both of these are going to be terms that are negative. Scalawags are basically anybody that went to the South and used the African Americans. So, for example, oh, I'm so excited you have rights. Here's this beautiful plot of land that you can have if you give me $200. Just kidding, I don't own that land, and I took all your money. That's what those are. And then most of this, you should know, radical Republicans are going to be the people that are going to pass almost all these laws or attempt to pass it. They are the ones that say the South should be as severely punished as possible. They are very much it's radical. Moderate Republicans are more willing to compromise. Abraham Lincoln won. Sharecroppers count as negative. Not to the Southerners. The Southerners thought sharecropping was a huge rights benefit for African Americans. But as you guys know, sharecroppers would be a massive negative. And sharecropping is basically extended slavery. Just be careful about calling it extended slavery because that's technically not true. But I do like to say that it basically re-enslaved the slaves to their slave masters who were forced to go back. And again, sharecropping was really popular until after the African American civil rights movements in the 1960s. So don't think sharecropping was only in the 1800s. There was a lot of sharecroppers in the 1960s and 70s as well. Southern Democrats, Andrew Johnson. Don't forget, Andrew Johnson was the guy that basically vetoed everything. So every attempt that they tried to be able to get to that help African Americans was vetoed. I think he vetoed 95% of the bills that came to him. They ended up impeaching him, but he was not convicted by a single vote. Election of Rutherford B. Hayes is the turning point into Phase 3. Phase 3 is the redemption for the South. Do you guys remember how we talked about how he was a Southerner, and then you had the guy that was he was the Northerner, and then there was a guy that was the Southerner, and they agreed that if Hayes became president, they would withdraw all the troops from the South. So basically, the election of Rutherford B. Hayes is the turning point, is the official end of Reconstruction, because now we have Jim Crow, segregation, lost cause, the New South, and the KKK rises as well during that time. Okay? Any questions about any of these terms? All right, so get your piece of paper out and let's do our IDs. We have a good set of IDs today. I'm excited about it. So again, if you want to go ahead, grab yourself. Lost cause is part of the New South, yes. Lost cause exists really from 1970 to like African American civil rights. Again, it still exists today. I had a student who was an APUSH student from last year who grew up in Alabama. And he ended up having to be pulled from APUSH because once we started talking about Civil War, he said we were all saying lies. So it is something that is still taught very much. The idea of the world, the thing of Northern aggression and things like that. Anything that has to do with supporting the South and saying what they did was right would be anything from the Lost Cause. Okay, so you should have out your ID stuff. Oops, too quick. All right, everybody ready? All right. Now, some of these, by the way, do get repeated. So a lot of these are just ideas. So some of them that I felt like we should hit the hardest, I did multiple ones of. So just be aware of that. Okay. All right, let's go. So number 1, ready, and go. And there's a lot you could do for this. Just let you know this if you can't read it. The bottom says Southern types the wolf and the lamb in politics. Okay, next. Hope everybody gets him. Okay, next. And just let you know, it's the word I blocked out, which is a word that would have to do with this. All right, next. All right, next. All right, next. And this is obviously not from the time period, but you should be able to know what it is based on the sign. I just couldn't find a good picture for it. Okay, next. This one's hard. Let's see if you can get it. Okay, next. And this is referring to one of the battles. This is the death rates. Okay, next. Now, this is really hard, but just let you know, what the horse says is the presidency. The presidency. And this one's really hard, but I'll explain it because this was on the AP exam a couple years ago and it was a highly missed question, so I want to expose you to it. All right, next. And this is actually referencing this was an AP DBQ 2 years ago. This is one of the Reconstruction ones. Okay, next. And this is, what is the newspaper? All right, next. I forgot to block this one out. I'm sorry. I thought I blocked it out, but I didn't. Well, this one should be easy. Freebie. Okay, next one. Okay, next. And so that you know what it says political map of the United States, the comparative area of the free and slave states, and the territory open to slavery or freedom by the repeal of the Missouri Compromise. Okay, next. All right, next. Okay, next. And it says Congressional scales a true balance. Henry Clay is also in this picture. All right, next. And it kind of came out blurrier than I wanted to, but that's okay. You're looking for a specific event that would cause this. All right, next. And it says proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the United States. All right, next. 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 And just let you know, each dot represents the amount of troop presence. So you're looking for the term associated with that. Troop presence. All right, next. 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 Now for this one, I want you to put, is it pro-slave or pro-free? So pro-slave or pro-free. This was on your test a couple of units ago. All right, next. Okay, next. And I think that if your DBQ was the Lincoln one, I think this would probably be your visual source for that. All right, next. All right, next. All right, next. And this one's hard, but once I give you the term, it'll make more sense. All right, next. All right, next. This is referring to an event, by the way. All right, next. Next. I think this is the last one. All right, let's go over your answers. Okay. Let's see if you guys can get, again, at least 60 to 70% right. I hope this one was a little bit easier, but maybe not. I don't know. This is normally when Tracy comes into the chat and tells us how she did, but I don't know if she's here today. I don't think I saw her. You are here. This is normally when you were like, yay, no. No? Okay. Well, good. Good. You're doing better. Good. That's awesome. Okay. All right. So let's see how you guys did. First one is referring to either scalawags or carpetbaggers. So either one of the two, as you can see, you have the white Southerner taking advantage of the free African American in the South. Okay, next one, John Brown. If any of you got this wrong, I would be very, very sad, because crazy, crazy, crazy John Brown. Okay, next one. Actually, interesting fact, by the way. I saw the other day that so I don't know if you guys have seen the protests that have been going on with the stay-at-home orders, where people are gathering in mass amounts as a civil disobedience regarding the stay-at-home orders nationwide. And somebody referred to some of them as John Brown and said they had the same tenacity and love of John Brown, so I'm not sure. If you put Brown anything, I'm sure that they would know who you're talking about on the AP exam. Okay, next, Emancipation Proclamation, or also the Great Emancipator, anything like that. Coleman, by the way, to answer your question, so I'm from Idaho, and you should see what's happening in Idaho. It's insane. And a lot of it comes down to the idea that people are saying that the government is taking away your constitutional right to assemble, and that because the Constitution says that you have the right to assemble, that means that you have the right to do what you want to do and you can't be restricted. So in particular, with just in general being able to go out and about, that's part of the issue, is people are saying you can't break people up because you have the right to assemble. And then the second one is also having to do with the fact that a lot of people do want to work. So it just depends on the situation. But the one up in Idaho, there is a gym that is banned. So gyms are banned right now in Idaho, just like in Utah. And there was a gym that opened up against the orders, and I actually know the people who own that gym. And they've been posting a lot on Facebook, and it has to do with saying that their constitutional rights are being violated by having these stay-at-home orders. So that's where they're coming from. But it'll be great because next year when I teach civil disobedience, I'll have so many things. Because there was this lady that went viral this weekend because she got arrested. And it's a great example of civil disobedience, and it'll be really good. So anyways, so Great Emancipator. Yay. Okay, California Gold Rush. Now it's, kind of easy. Okay. Radical Republicans, you can see Radical Convention, and then you can see Progression. I love how this down here says, white men and women, are you ready? Like, they're really out there because of, rights and stuff. Interesting. Okay. 14th Amendment. Again, anything equal protection of the law. Nat Turner's Rebellion. If you guys remember, this was the one where the slaves tried to escape to Florida because it would have been free in Florida, but then they got stopped and they killed everybody. That's Nat Turner's Rebellion. Gettysburg, deadliest battle in American history. Election of 1876. This one's Rutherford B. Hayes. This was on an AP exam a couple years ago, and nobody understood it, and I totally 100% get it. So the idea is that you have the crying Southerner. So they're going to, basically the idea is that, not the crying Southerner, this is Rutherford B. Hayes. And the idea is that the Southerner is going to give them the Trojan horse of the U.S. presidency and make him happy. But then in reality, the South gets what they want and have the troops removed in the South. So this one was really hard, but it was on the AP exam a couple years ago, just like the milk one was. Carpetbagger. So if you notice, you have the carpet bag. It actually says carpet bag and bayonet rule. So I want to cover this one, though, and you guys who are here, you get a bonus. So 2 years ago when the DBQ was on Reconstruction for the international exam, this was the political cartoons for it. This was actually 2 of the cartoons for the documents. So the strong government over here, so if you notice, it has the carpet bag, the bayonet rule. The Southern South is being destroyed. It is you have the bayonet rule over here and over here. It's keeping the South in check. But if you notice, 1877, remember what happens in 1877? Rutherford B. Hayes, start of lost cause theories, end of Reconstruction. If you notice, then what it switches to is you have Rutherford B. Hayes as the president. This is Grant over here, by the way. And then you can see the bayonet rule and all these things are being tilled. He has this let him alone policy, which is the idea of pulling all the troops. And this is the weak government. And basically the South gets to do what they want. And look, cotton. and all of these different things in the background. So this was on the AP exam 2 years ago. Everybody got it wrong. So it was a really hard cartoon. So you get a benefit because now you've seen it. Yay. And I forgot to delete this. This is the Liberator, which I forgot to delete this one over here. But anytime you see William Lloyd Garrison, that's the Liberator. And remember, he was the white guy that stood for African American rights. Uncle Tom's Cabin. Didn't delete it, so this should have been a freebie. Hopefully everybody got this one right. First African Americans elected in the South. So remember, Reconstruction era, radical Reconstruction allows African Americans to be elected in the South. This one is Compromise of 1850 or Free versus Slave States. So again, you can see it says comparative era of free versus slave and the territory open to slavery with the repeal of the Missouri Compromise line. So the Missouri Compromise right here. All of this is a precursor to the election of 1850. And notice it actually says Census of 1850. And you can tell because California. Yeah, California, always the problem when it comes to compromises. Nativism and the Know-Nothing Party. Native Americans, beware of foreign influence. Gold Rush, Chinese, not Golf Rush. Gold Rush, Chinese immigration. Wilmot Proviso, concerns over slavery versus free. Laundromats. That would have been a good outside evidence, is the Chinese laundromats. But this itself is actually them, so this washing tailings. So this is actually washing things and trying to find gold is what they're actually doing in this image. Irish potato famine, which I also realized was actually down here. But this is Irish potato famine. 13th Amendment is the abolition of slavery. Anaconda plan, cut off the trade, didn't work. Irish-German immigration as well as nativism. Bleeding Kansas, border ruffians, John Brown, kill everybody, popular sovereignty. First wave of immigration. This is the Bayonet Rule. So this is the army presence in the South. So each of the dots is the army presence in the South. 15th Amendment, right to vote. Freedmen's Bureau, which I also noticed is like all over here, but I didn't notice that till we started. Black Belt, concentration of African Americans in the South. Declaration of the Rights and Sentiments, or the Seneca Falls Convention. It actually has on here Harry, Katie Eaton, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucretia Mott. Jim Crow laws, more typos. Know-Nothing Party. If you notice, it says foreigners have a residence for 20 years before voting. Free school system, protection against foreign pauper labor. So this was that Charles Sumner one, and then remember, this is the anti-South one. A lot of people interpret this as pro-South. This is when Charles Sumner, who was the representative from Massachusetts, basically tried to kill this guy in the South and almost killed him. And the idea was that Northerners would do anything to get abolition. KKK. Just remember, too, though, that most abolitionists were not necessarily supporting all African-American rights. It was more that they were trying to prevent it from going into the new territories, free soil. This was in debating the Kansas-Nebraska Act. That's correct. So this was talking about Compromise of 1850 and things like that was when that, I think it was in 1850 specifically. KKK, election of 1860. Again, I think if they did that, effects of Lincoln's presidency, I feel like they would have to have this document because it's the most famous document about the election of 1860. Sherman's March to the Sea, burn everything to the ground. Dred Scott decision with the wonderful Roger Taney, which remember, he's also the guy that comes out when we do the nullification crisis with Jackson, and Dred Scott decision saying that the Missouri Compromise was unconstitutional. Fugitive Slave Act and the Compromise of 1850. So this actually says Fugitive Slave Act down here. See, they're trying to catch them and they're trying to protect them. There's William Lloyd Garrison. Chinatown, ethnic communities. This would also be a good Chinese laundromat one for if you wanted to add in a good outside evidence point. Lincoln-Douglas debates. There wasn't really a good image for it, sorry. Anti-immigration, nativism, and concerns about Catholicism. And sharecropping is the last one. And you can tell it's sharecropping because the date is 1907, so no slavery. All right, so that is it for today. Anybody have any questions about any of this content, essay topics, anything like that? Okay, cool. Well, that was pretty quick and easy. Period 4, which is next time. So we'll do period 4 on Monday, period 3 on Wednesday, and then historical context of periods 1 and 2 for Friday. Because technically the exam, it says it's over periods 1 through 7, so I'm not sure. You're still confused about if the vocab activities are the things you put in the binders. Yes. So all your review assignments will be part of the binder system. And it'll make a lot more sense once I put the binder together and send it out. And then it'll be very, very easy to understand. I'm making a whole document of how to put it together. So yeah, so all the review activities you're doing will be available to everybody, and that will be what you put into your binder. Anybody else have any questions? By the way, I only had 55 people do their check-in. So if you did not do your check-in that was due yesterday, make sure you get that done so I can know where you're at. I'll start contacting you if you're behind. And it's not necessarily that, again, it just depends. Most people have done, I would say about 50% of people have turned in at least one assignment at this point, is what most people have done at this point. Most commonly are the one-pagers, or is the most common one. Okay, cool. Well, we'll go ahead and we will end that there. And it was so good to see everybody. Look at how many people have their cameras on. Like, we never see Joy. Amelia, you have your camera on. That's so nice. Jada eliminated her background. Oh, man, we got Max here. I'm more talking about the usual people that don't. And then Alan always has his on, so we're always good with Alan. Nectarios always has his on, so that's nice. Okay. We got Tina here. We got Noah. Elsa, hi. Oh, and Henry. Hi, Henry. Who else? I haven't said? Mingjing's here. I think that's all of our people that have a camera on. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Anyways, well, it was so good to see everybody. I miss you all so much. Noah's a rock. That's nice. Or is that... What is that? Is it a rock or is it a seal? I think it's a seal that's really fat. I follow this on Instagram. There's a dog. It's called the Fat Beagle, by the way. If anybody wants a cute Instagram, it's all about a beagle who's really fat. And they have an Instagram. It's adorable. Well, for the record, okay, when you're looking at it from a distance... Oh, okay, Thushar. The funny thing about you saying that is thick, interesting story. So one of my favorite places in the whole world is not the Manifest Destiny. Oh my gosh, history. Is the, what is it called? Monterey Bay Aquarium. And if you've seen Finding Dory, that's actually the aquarium it's modeled after. So they have all these sea otters, and they posted this picture of the sea otter on Instagram, and they called it